Well, I would like to have a dinner with John R. Commons, who was a very distinguished labor economist at the University of Wisconsin, and whose work I've read multiple times and I still assign to my students. He was struggling with trying to understand how to enable labor to organize more effectively, and wrote some of the initial legislation for labor law in Wisconsin and elsewhere. And he had a very interesting philosophy about rights having a counterpart to duties. And so if somebody has a right, somebody has to have a duty. And I would love to discuss with him some of those philosophical foundations.
This episode of The Harmonious Gentleman is brought to you by our friends at Blind Man Brewing, the most awarded brewery in Canada. They brew innovative, high-quality, and flavorful beer while working for sustainability through their green initiatives. Blind Man Brewing hosts all kinds of harmonious fun at their beautiful tap room in Lacombe, Alberta. Live music, cornhole leagues, wonderful tacos, or a refreshing pint with friends. There's always something fresh and tasty at Blind Man Brewing.
Of podcast episodes were the number of fish that Simon Peter caught when Jesus told him to lower his nets. You'd know this has to be episode 153 of The Harmonious Gentleman. There's a few fishing stories, guys, in the Bible, but one that has a specific number, which I didn't know until I was Googling the number 153, is this story.
That's a very specific number. So that's how many fish
were in the net.
Were
how
in the
many
net.
big
Oh, okay.
fish were in the net. And the net didn't rip.
Were there small ones that they didn't count?
I don't know. Not recorded. It's possible. Or small ones in the big ones.
Well, we've kind of gone away from like the tragic numbers. Are you doing that intentionally?
I got some feedback that maybe it was too sad for a while.
Well, this still was the number of fish that were killed.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's true. I never thought of it from that perspective.
I kind of like starting the episodes with something kind of dark, and then we bring ourselves out every
Okay.
time. Like, I think it's a neat arc.
It's kind of the hope arc.
We'll talk about that feedback later on.
Okay.
What's your name, by the way?
I am Chris.
Oh, cool. I'm Graham.
And I'm Tyler.
Yeah.
Guys, it's almost Christmas. How do you guys feel about that? Just very quick, that we do this every year where we talk about
Yeah.
Christmas. But
I feel
just
good.
Love it.
That's how I
good.
feel.
Yeah.
Good. Love it. I'm neutral.
Tyler's
Okay.
Grinching.
No, I'm not as
Neutral's
much of a
pretty
Grinch.
good.
Oh, yeah.
I'm a little more just like accepting.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's gonna
I'm
happen.
excited for some of the things that are coming up. But yeah. Should I read an email?
Yeah, please
let's
do.
do it. Yeah.
I was wondering if we got one this.
Do you want to mention where we're recording today, Tyler, briefly?
Yeah, we're recording at the Sheldon Kennedy Center of Excellence in Red Deer, which is where I work. Yeah, so this is just a little. I don't normally sit in this room, but yeah, we booked a little mini boardroom.
Do you feel the pressure that this place is called like a center of excellence?
Yeah, I do feel self-conscious saying that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather say I work at Step Up, Step Down, but this is the building that we.
Yeah, but even just you walk through those doors, it's like you better bring it.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the
That's-
quality of this specific episode better be high.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
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 So I was getting to, and I think I already wrecked it. So.
Yeah, we just have to be done before anyone sees us here because we're not actually allowed to be in this room.
Oh.
No, I'm just joking.
Will Sheldon Kennedy kick us out?
Yeah, someone might walk in.
Yeah.
I'm going to read an email from one of our most prolific email writers.
Okay.
Whenever we get a message from listener Ross, like I'm always impressed at I'm impressed and a little embarrassed because these emails are smarter than anything we ever say. But there's one, we received it a couple weeks ago, but I think this is a good time to read it. It's in regards to the Hope episode. It says, "Dear gents, thanks very much for your episode in which you struggle with the theme of hope. I really appreciated how very personal and real that question is for you right now, in the aftermath of the teacher's strike. It is also a struggle for me as well, as we struggle with the challenges related to climate change, the increasing authoritarianism in the U.S., and the willingness of the Alberta government to bypass the Charter of Rights and freedoms by invoking the notwithstanding clause. I worry that the world my children and grandchildren are inheriting will not be as stable, fair, or harmonious as the one that I have known. I particularly appreciated your conclusion that taking action, however small, is a key ingredient in hope. And the email continues with many, many quotes from a book tentatively titled Words to Live By, written by Ross, I believe, right? Yes. And
That's what I heard.
yeah, and I'm actually, this is a little bit awkward. This is a first-time thing. I've read an email from someone who's sitting right next to us. We have a guest here today, Ross Smillie.
That's me.
That's you,
Yeah.
yes. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, it's great to be here.
Yeah. And how was it to hear your own email read in front of you?
Okay, I can live with those words. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
So
But we've appreciated all the emails over
Yeah.
the years, and we've been working on
over all the years, I think it's been less than a year.
all that. Well, then you've written a lot.
Just I have not. You make it sound like I've been nagging you or something, or
Not at
pestering you
all.
with
No,
emails.
no,
So-
pestering. It's
we
all
love
good.
it. We
Yeah.
love it. Yeah, so thanks for joining us. What are we, we'll let you introduce yourself a little bit more in maybe the next segment,
Sure.
but can you just give us a teaser for what we'll talk about on the episode today?
So the issue is how we act together in a world in which it seems like everybody's kind of acting in their own self-interest, and that's the only way to really be. This episode is about collective action, why it's important, and how we get there.
Good teaser.
Yeah,
Very
you guys ready
good.
for it?
Yeah. Do you want to quickly recommend some things before we
yeah.
hit the break?
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Cool. Anyone want to take it?
I can go first.
Sure.
Okay.
Go for it.
I'm going to recommend this book called Mutualism by Sarah Horowitz. I had never heard of it before picking it off the shelf at the library. I was just kind of browsing a section, and it looked interesting. I actually liked the cover, and the title was all I needed. And then I read it, and it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's related to, I think, what we're going to talk about today, and it's something that's been interesting to me lately. Yeah, mutualism.
Okay. I'll recommend a radio program. You have to get up really early to hear it. It's on BBC. It's a BBC show called The Interview, and CBC Radio covers it at 5 a.m. So today, because we're recording this episode early, I got to hear it on the drive. And it's, a British interviewer who just gets people from around the world and hits them with hard topics. I think I recommended something called Hard Talk before, which is a different BBC program, kind of similar. So the episode I heard today, he was interviewing a Egyptian, not the president, but somebody high up in the government, and just nailing them with hard questions. So kind of interesting stuff.
Which in our world today is a rarity.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's a thing much anymore. Like actually having to
And
answer questions.
I
that
always
are
wonder,
real.
like, why would you agree to be on this show? Because it's just, you're getting kind of grilled, but it's interesting stuff.
Chris, thank you for that.
You're so welcome.
My recommendation is a movie called Train Dreams. Anyone seen Train Dreams?
No.
It's really good. It's really sad and like emotional, so make sure you're in that state. But it's about the turn of the century in the Pacific Northwest, these loggers, and it's based on one guy. And it's just a really artistic, beautifully shot film about loss, and it's powerful stuff. So
Is it a documentary? Or
no, it's a movie.
Dramatic?
It's actually interesting. It's filmed. Is it letterbox? Like it's not a widescreen format. So even on your widescreen, like it'll cut off the edges.
Oh.
Kind of looks like an old school look, but it almost looks like they shot it with all natural light, like the way it looks. Like remember The Revenant?
Yeah.
It's sort of like that feel, but really good. And again, like it's quite. It's emotional and sad, so it's not like a romp for the family, but really, really good. I would definitely recommend it. I don't like the name Train Dreams. It doesn't roll off the tongue. It doesn't even sound all. There's not much, even like barely any trains in it, but it's really good. So check it out.
Cool.
Yeah.
Ross, do you have a recommendation?
I do. I've been trying to reduce the amount of caffeine I drink and the amount of pop that I drink, and so I've been trying to drink more herbal tea, but I find it annoying having to boil the water and then come back when the water is really hot and then pour it into a teapot, all that kind of stuff. So what I've taken to doing is I have this big punch bowl type thing that has a tap on it. And once a week, I fill this thing with hot tap water. I put some tea bags into it, and I have herbal tea on tap
for the week.
For the whole week, yeah.
But then are you heating it up to drink it?
No. Well, sometimes I do. Like in the morning, I'll if I want a hot drink, I'll heat it up. But I can just drink it cold too.
Oh. Okay.
I like that. It's efficient.
Yeah.
It's a legit new idea people can try.
Yeah.
You know? Instead of like another podcast or another movie.
Get up at 5 to listen to the show.
Awesome. Thanks. Well, Ty, should we do it?
Yeah.
All
Let's
right.
do it.
Let's hit the break and we'll come back.
This segment is brought to you by the King's University in Edmonton, Alberta. Check out King's brand new Bachelor of Kinesiology degree. This integrative, highly practical health sciences program is about preparing you for careers in human performance, sports, and biomechanics. If you have a passion for movement and exercise, visit kingsu.ca/kinesiology.
So, Ross, when we have guests, we like to ask 3 questions. The first is, who are you?
Mm-hmm.
Second, where do you come from and where are you going? And you can answer this however you'd like, just within a reasonable time frame.
Okay. My name is Ross Smillie. I lived in Lacombe for 21 years before moving to Red Deer 7 or 8 years ago, and so I was a United Church minister in Lacombe, and then in Red Deer before I retired. Right in the middle of the pandemic, I retired, but it's a long story. But but before I came to Central Alberta, I grew up in Edmonton, and but I went to Duke University in the States in North Carolina, and I did a.
You're a Blue Devil?
I'm not a Blue Devil, but I guess I'm an alumni of that university. Yeah. So, but you're right. You got the name of the basketball team and the football team.
That's the mascot. Okay, good.
Yes. Yeah. So.
Sorry
now you're throwing me off.
Disarm you there.
So, but while I was at Duke, I was doing a graduate degree in theology and ethics, and my specialization was environmental ethics. And one of the things I did was I did a course in collective action, and which is a really important theme in environmental policy and ethics. So I'm curious to know what you think. If you think when you hear the term in collective action, what comes to mind?
Chris, Graham?
Like when people form a human chain, like around a tree
Yeah.
that they want to chop down. Does that count? You know?
Well, I'm
You ever seen
recently
Fern Gully?
rewatching the Avatar movies because the third one's coming out and they aren't as good as I remembered. But this collective action of like defending something that you care about, maybe as a group. That's what comes to mind.
Yeah, both those examples sound similar in their kind of like protecting the environment. But if I think just the 2 words separately, collective and action, it's just doing something as a group. Mm-hmm. So like us doing this is a collective action that we've agreed to come here and record a podcast today. So that's maybe just to...
Is Daniel Smith's recall petition a collective action?
I think it's a group of people with a united purpose.
Cool.
But how are we wrong, Ross?
That's why you're really here today.
Well, except for Graham, who talked about chopping a tree down. I don't know that you're right. You're right. So, but collective action, in its general sense, is there are collective action problems, and then there's collective action initiatives. So, a collective action problem is when individuals would all benefit from cooperation, but they fail to act together because they have competing self-interests. So my favorite example of this is is when I was growing up, there was, and I meant to ask, what terminology was acceptable here, but everybody in the neighborhood would take their dogs to the local park, and the dogs would crap in the park, and through most of the year, the weather would take care of the dog crap, and there'd be a little bit there, little fresh stuff there, but most of it would be either baked and hard or it would just wash away. But over the winter, it would freeze and collect.
Yes.
Until in March came along, and it would melt, and you'd have mushy dog crap like covering the whole park. You could not walk in that park without. So it was a collective action problem because no one person walking their dog could change it.
Right.
If you could pick up your own crap, your own dog crap, all you wanted, but it wouldn't change the fact that the park was still covered in crap. Mm-hmm. What had to happen was that everybody had to act collectively to change their behavior, or it wouldn't make a difference. It was like one person's action would be like a drop in the bucket, mm-hmm. and it wouldn't make a significant difference.
Change anything.
That's typical of a collective action mm-hmm. problem, is that one person really can't really make a big difference. Mm-hmm. And this is, there's lots and lots of examples of problems like that.
Yeah.
And so now in that case, there was a law that came in colloquially called a pooper scooper law, okay. that got people to pick up their poop, their dog poop, and that didn't completely resolve the problem. There's still the odd person who doesn't do it, but I got yelled at once because I didn't do it because I forgot a bag. I had to come back later and do it, but if you scale up poop in a dog park to the Great Lakes, which at one time were so polluted that a river caught on fire, and now are a lot better.
Yeah, you can almost swim in them.
Almost, apparently. I think maybe some people do. Yeah, maybe even in the river that caught on fire, people swim. Or the Seine river in Europe. Lots of rivers in Europe are so polluted that anyway, so or the air or the climate or
With the dog crap example, the solution's actually very simple, right? Mm-hmm. Like when you take your dog on a walk, you pick up their crap, mm-hmm. right? Is that common through all of when you scale it up? Is it, when we talk about collective action problems, is it consistently a problem where the solution's pretty simple if we just did our own piece?
Oh, no.
No, okay.
Yeah, no, sometimes the problems can be quite difficult, quite complex. So that's, but what ties them all together is the challenge of getting people to act together around a common solution. And right. The first issue is, can we imagine how to do this differently?
Yeah,
mm-hmm. And that sometimes can be quite challenging.
So I have two examples or wonders from my youth, if these would have counted. So one was kind of a littering campaign that changed, I think, in the early 80s. I don't think people cared about litter until about 1984. I don't know. Then signs came up, but people would throw things out their car windows, and streets were gross. And then it seemed like there was a push through schools. I would think that's like a collective action campaign almost. But what mm-hmm. about something like, we didn't used to wear seatbelts in cars, and then can a law change something to make collective action happen, or does it have to be a group of people kind of making the choice together to fit into the category?
Yes. So laws can make a big difference, and also public campaigns. So you've given two examples of things that can. One part of it is just changing the norm, mm-hmm. changing the operating assumption.
Yeah.
But we'll talk a little bit more later on about how complex the solutions need to be. I think the cold open that will be that at the beginning of this is a little snip from a clip from a presentation by a woman named Eleanor Ostrom, who was the first woman to win the Nobel Prize for economics in 2009.
On our next trivia.
There you go.
Yeah.
And
that's a good one.
and she was one of the leaders of studying what are called common property regimes or common pool regimes, which are ways in which people around the world have found to manage collective action problems, from managing pastures, fisheries, aquifers, irrigation systems, things where it's a public good. So this is one of the characteristics of collective action, is that it's in service of a common good, but a common good, a public good, is something that everybody gets to benefit from, but because everybody gets to benefit from it, there's no real incentive for one person to really, or even a small group of people to really actually do anything about.
And the negative consequences are like spread out across everyone else who's using it.
Right. So there's net positive goods and there's negative consequences. Yeah. So, yeah. So that, yeah, everything is spread out. So I mean, it might be worth talking about that a little bit. What's the difference between a public good and a private good? I think that's actually a really important concept that we've kind of, maybe not everybody is on board with. That there are public goods. Can you think what public goods can you think of?
Well, I'll even just start with the dog crap thing. Like when it's a public park, everyone can walk their dog through there. So that's awesome. Like, it's a benefit for everyone. But because you are not individually responsible for the park, someone else it's public, it's provided to me to use, you don't worry about that one dog crap that I left there on my walk. But if it was private property, you know that there's somebody is going to take accountability for that space. So that's the difference, I think.
Or if
with
they don't, it doesn't really affect you.
It's not my problem. Yeah,
It's not my
this
problem
isn't
if
my
your dog-
property. So I either don't walk my dog there because I'm not allowed to, or the assumption is someone is going to take accountability for this.
Yeah.
But
So another example of one that a friend of mine actually worked for the World Health Organization and working with a research group, and they showed that that in countries where, so the top quarter of countries with the highest health outcomes, the bottom quarter of the population in high health, in countries with good health, had better health than the top quarter in countries with poor health.
Oh, wow.
So public health is a public good that benefits everybody in the society, and poor health in a country with overall poor health outcomes affects everybody. So public health is a public good. So measles would be a good example of, a measles-free country, or a smallpox-free country, or a polio-free country are good examples of a public good that have happened because of a collective action of immunization campaigns to rid the world of those diseases.
That just makes me think of in that particular example, that collective action is almost impossible if you can't even agree that there is a problem. Like when people start to not even agree that there, number one, that there is a problem, and number two, how to solve this problem. Like, if those are two, do you feel that? Like it's harder maybe now than it used to be to agree on even just the basic starting point.
So this is why I wanted to have this conversation, Graham.
Yeah.
So yeah, because it is getting harder to get people to agree on stuff,
right.
and the reason for that is another collective action problem, which is social media and the problem with the algorithms that, so the fact that we have social media environment that incentivizes negativity and incentivizes division is a collective action problem that we need to do something about. We need to find a way to do something about.
I like it framed that way. Yeah.
So, but another collective action problem that I've been hearing about recently is this is a really cutting edge one, is artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
I mean, people are worried about artificial intelligence becoming a monster, and how do we keep it from becoming a monster? Well, we need to actually act together to set some boundaries in place, and whether that happens by the big tech companies all agreeing that they're not going to go certain places, or whether it happens through
That's not going to happen.
Regulation.
Whether it happens through regulation is an open question at this point.
Is it a common theme in collective action history that at first the problem seems too big to even tackle? Or like I think that a little bit with AI, it's kind of like, well, it's too late now, or the cat's out of the bag, we can't really control it. But is that sort of the case historically with any cause that people look at?
I think probably. I mean, because it does seem daunting that, think it might be helpful. Might be hopeful to come back to our earlier conversation. Might be hopeful to remember, one of the earlier ones was that I can think of was the whaling industry, and big business, diminishing resource, and the lower the number of whales got, the more valuable the product became.
Sure.
So it became more of an incentive for the companies to go out and get more whales. There was no natural kind of thing there. They had to actually, the nations of the world had to come together and actually form a whaling commission and agree that they weren't going to slaughter whales anymore. Mm-hmm. And they did it. And now the whales are coming back.
Yeah,
we still have whales, and maybe not in the populations we used to, but they're much healthier than they were. So another one is the ozone layer. The nations of the world had to come together and agree they weren't going to produce chloroform. How do you say that?
Chlorofluorocarbons.
Thank you. Anymore, and the ozone hole has been closing, and it's been a successful international cooperative kind of agreement. So, even at a very global level, these things can happen. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Climate change has been a much more challenging one because it requires everybody to kind of every nation to cooperate, especially the big emitters, but it also affects every part of the economy, so it's been really challenging. I think it's the most challenging collective action problem that the world has ever faced, and we're still in the middle of it. It's still not clear whether we're going to, what the outcome is going to be, but it is clear that every little bit that we can do is going to improve is going to make it better for the future.
I think people learning about those examples where we have made a change. I think the ozone layer, I've talked about that in science class before. It's a really important thing to learn about the times where we have come together and have affected that change, that it is possible. Because it is true that I often think it's not. And I like those stories, and we need to know more about them, or more examples, I think, too.
Yeah. Another one is acid rain.
That's the one I remember as a kid being the big, before the ozone layer was a problem.
Yeah, it used to be. So, I mean, and that was just Canada and the United States having to get together and agree. And it was, I think it was Reagan and Mulroney got together and came up with a protocol for reducing acid rain. And it was challenging. It was because both countries were blaming each other, and some people were saying, "Well, it blows over from the States. What can we do about it?" But we had to act together, or else nothing could be done about it.
It's just so hard today to imagine that happening, right? That's what's so discouraging at times. Like I can't imagine that sort of collective.
Yeah, it's been like 40 years of progress, and now they're dismantling the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency in the United States, or hamstringing it.
Yeah. Every protection agency is being gutted, essentially.
In some of these examples where there's a collective action problem, like where in order to solve the problem, we would need to work together, it seems like we reach the success comes from government intervention, or like governments working together, or policy changing, or regulation, the pooper scooper law, right? But is collective action I can't think of a better way of saying this, like a left-wing idea, or is it non-partisan? Like, can the free market also provide some solutions?
Yeah. So, I mean, generally, there are three ways of thinking about, you know, if there's a common, if there's a collective action problem, then one of the ways of dealing with that is to create a private property mechanism that surrounds it. So a common pasture, you know, a common fishery, you know, somebody could take that over and run it as a private enterprise. And because they can capture the benefit of that, they hopefully would manage it more effectively, right? Yeah. So, and your example of, you know, that, you know, a person who's got a front lawn and they can, you know, if somebody walks their dog and the dog craps in the lawn, then the homeowner can come out and yell at the person whose dog is crapping in the lawn and say, pick that up, you know, so because it's my property, I can enforce my private property right. So in historically, this happened at a somewhat bigger scale. It happened in Britain and in Ireland, I think, in Scotland too, where there was often a commons. The most famous of those now is the Boston Commons, and people would graze their sheep on the commons, and everybody would everybody shared that place, that area, and community commons were, and then there was what was called the enclosure movement, where that was taken over and converted into private property. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure, maybe you guys know the history of that a little bit more than I do, whether the enclosure movement was because the commons weren't being managed effectively, or because somebody saw an opportunity to make a lot of money, and so they took them over. I think it might have been more the latter than the former.
Well, I don't know if it's the same set of enclosure acts, but I know that the one that I know a little bit about was that the pastures were being basically deteriorated. Mm-hmm. Like they were overgrazing because no one felt like, then that increased people's motivation to graze. They're like, we're running out, so they would overgraze
get
even
their
more.
Sheep there earlier.
Yeah. And then
well, and there's a phrase that I think is relatively well known in this movement, or this area study, called The Tragedy of the Commons, which was the title of a famous article in Science magazine, the journal Science, a major science journal in the States, and that talked about, you know, that it was inevitable that common property would be degraded because it was in everybody's self-interest to put more cows onto a pasture, or more sheep, or whatever, because everybody individuals captured the benefit from having an extra cow or an extra sheep, but if they withheld sheep or cows from that pasture, then they had to take the full cost of withholding it on themselves. So everybody shared the cost of the degradation of the pasture, but everybody got the benefit of adding their own cow. So the idea was that this was inevitable. Now, and Elinor Ostrom, the woman that used the Nobel Prize winner, what her field especially was showing that in fact there was another way to deal with this, other than government regulation and other than private property, and that was through cooperative enterprises. Not in the sense that we think of co-ops here, but collective action mechanisms in which people were able to get together and to solve these problems. And she studied them using political science and economic methods, and came up with eight characteristics of successful ones. Okay. And she was able to show, she studied both successful ones and failing ones, and showed that in almost every case, the successful ones were successful because they all 8 of those, and the failing ones failed because they were missing one or more.
Cool. So, and are that third way, are they another way of saying it? Could it be like grassroots movements? Is that
It could be grassroots, but there are also international ones. I mean, so I mean, it might be governments that need to come together, but there's no like the UN is in some sense a collective action agency. I mean, there's the UN is not able to impose its will on.
It's not supposed to act in the interest of one country, but in
But but it they have to get people acting together.
Yeah.
That's or climate change or the Conference of the Parties. That's a collective collective action enterprise.
This segment is brought to you by Cilantro and Chive. Delicious, creative dishes, a huge variety of locally crafted drinks, and with locations in Lacombe and Red Deer, they're making two communities more awesome. Check out their mouth-watering Burger of the Month, a rotating menu item that satisfies your hunger and supports local initiatives and charities. Cilantro and Chive, fresh, simple eats.
So I think we've gotten relatively clear anyway, about some of the problems. Let's talk about solutions. And we've talked about private property, we've talked about government regulation, but there's also the option of a variety of actors, whether they be individuals or whether they be governments, and at many different levels. How they can cooperate or act collectively, and there's essentially three things that need to happen. One of them is there needs to be some level of trust, and we're talking here about not just trust as an individual virtue, but as something that is built through being accountable to each other. So there needs to be a trust is built through being able to monitor the situation and being accountable. So, for example, the START talks or the nuclear weapons regimes. There's monitoring systems built into that, and a lot of these collective action agreements have monitoring systems built into them, so that there's some level of transparency about what's going on, and then if there's accountability and there's some kind of enforcement, so there's sanctions. So if people are managing a fishery, then the fishers are often best equipped to keep an eye on what's happening in that particular area of the ocean or a lake, usually the ocean, and they will be able to see what people are doing, whether they're observing the rules or not, and
it's in their interest to report if somebody's breaking the rules or
and they can adapt the rules if they have authority to if they're part of the organization that's setting the rules, and they notice that there's something that's missing, that there needs to be adaptation of the rule, then they have to do that. So adaptive institutions is one of the things that's necessary, and an institution that adapt will build trust over time. So
I feel like that makes sense to me, that we need, in order for these things to be successful, there needs to be trust. But this is only the first of three, and I already see that there's going to be big challenges.
There's going to be some problems.
Because some of the solutions are we need to trust the government, and some people I think are not open to that at all. And then another with the fisheries, well, the people who are best suited to make these decisions are the fishermen themselves. I can also see people saying, well, I don't trust individuals who are motivated to make a profit to make decisions that are good for the collective. So I agree with it all. I just see maybe it's the way things are right now, that even just getting to the being willing to trust somebody, I think is going to be a challenge for people.
Again, part of the reason I wanted to have this conversation is because I think there's some political movements going on that are undermining our ability to have these kind of conversations, not just political ones, but technological ones like this, social media and all that kind of stuff. So in the States, the Tea Party movement and MAGA. But even before that, I mean, the whole Adam Smith kind of idea that, if we each act in our own individual interests, that society will be, as if by an invisible hand, improved. So is the idea of private interest as being...
That takes a level of trust to believe that that's going to happen.
It's an ideology in which people trust. It's like a faith system,
Yeah.
And in some cases it works, but in other cases it doesn't. And so we need to be discerning enough about that. When will it work? When will it not? So
I'm wondering, like, North America seems so individualistic, even historically, like in the context of human history, and you can see it kind of playing out in government, religion, I think, denominationalism, like all these things that have happened here. I wonder if is that a new thing, do you think? Is that like a hallmark of this part of the world that makes collective action more difficult? Even geographically? Like, is it harder to get this going here than it is in Finland? Or, I don't know.
Yes and no. I mean, I think that in some ways, both Canada and the United States and Europe in general are spectacularly successful societies. I mean, economically, socially, health, all those things. There are places in the world where states are failing, and I think one of the reasons why states fail is because they're not good at acting collectively. I mean, they don't trust each other. There's tribal and religious conflicts that just people are not able to come together around stuff. So I think there are thousands of collective action problems of all kinds of different styles and descriptions. But when societies are good at dealing with them, they generally tend to be successful societies. When they're not, and so my fear is that we're entering a period when it's becoming harder to solve those problems successfully. And that may mean things will get worse for our next generations.
Okay, so if we can achieve trust, what's the next?
Right. So trust is one thing. Generally, people participation is another one. So, are people participating? Do people have a direct involvement in using resource and are able to contribute to managing it? So this is where sometimes it's better to keep things local and keep things small. There are things that are hard to do that way, especially when they cross borders. I remember the reason why this came up was that your episode that you did about different loyalties, conflicting loyalties, and I was, well, that's a good example. That's a good example of the different kind of levels of government, but also the different kinds of ecosystems and natural systems, which often cross boundaries and cross political boundaries. So it can be quite challenging at times. But so sometimes you do need to go like international and get governments involved, and sometimes it doesn't work to do things at a very local level, because rivers cross boundaries. The wind blows across boundaries. But if you can keep it local, then and provide the support and the regulatory support from wider levels of government to support those local initiatives, then they can be quite successful. So there are like local watershed organizations that contribute towards managing rivers and managing watersheds, right? So, and then the third major thing is adaptive institutions, and I mentioned this already. So if the users of the resource can monitor its use or overuse, and then adapt their use and rules to those local conditions, and to changing situations. Maybe there's a growing population, or the changing climate, or whatever, or an irrigation system needs to be maintained, or something like that. The best institutions are those where there's cooperation and mutual respect among the different levels of governments and local organizations, national governments, international organizations.
Okay. Kind of like Alberta's relationship with the federal government and international.
A perfect example of harmonious cooperation. Obviously, there's going to be some tensions between those, and that's natural. But at the same time, when people are acting in their best interest and there's some accountability, they often the best outcomes, maybe not the best outcomes, but successful outcomes can happen.
Out of those three things that you've mentioned, is there one that sticks out to you right now that we're facing that is the most problematic moving forward?
Well, I think it's already been flagged. Yeah, trust is a big issue. Yeah. So so lots of reasons people are just not trusting big organizations anymore.
Right.
But there's still lots, even in the States, where there's a lot of lack of trust in big organizations. And people are who are questioning vaccines because of the prominence of big pharma, or the big pharmaceutical companies, are often really active in local PTAs and local. There's lots of different examples of different smaller scale kind of things in which people are fairly active. So hope is not lost.
Yeah.
There's still lots of reason to be optimistic that the cooperative spirit will prevail.
Well, I think there's an example from the news just this week. In Australia, the government banned social media for users under 16. And that, I think, is we talk about this all the time, but
it's a
pretty interesting and great response to a problem that they've identified as affecting their whole population, that they've made and I don't actually know how they carrying that out or if it's going to be successful, but it's kind of an interesting step to take.
Yeah.
Well, they've
and the first country to do it.
So many people around the world have identified the problem.
Right.
But if you feel kind of handcuffed, like, how do we deal with it? And now there is a country trying something, like, don't know if it'll work, but it's an action that's happening. Yeah,
well, but local schools are taking action on that. Our provincial government is taking action on that. Individual schools, individual school boards. So it can happen at all kinds of different levels. One of the key issues is whether, in all collective action, is whether the higher levels of government will actually support action at a local level.
Right.
So, so for example, one of the problems has been that, for example, a fishery in, maybe Indonesia someplace, they might have been managing their fishery locally for generations, and then the federal government, the national government, enters into a trade agreement with the Asian Pacific region or whatever, and all of a sudden that fishery is open to international fishing conglomerates that come in, and within a few years the fishery is gone. So the question is, are those local management efforts supported by the wider opportunity? So that's an example of adaptive institutions that scale up. To me, this can be kind of a depressing kind of conversation, but the overall message to me is hope. As I look back as I studied the different kinds of international and local efforts to act collectively, especially on environmental problems, because that's what I'm most aware of. There's a long track record of communities managing, pastures, irrigation systems, aquifers, fisheries, all those kinds of things. And also there have been lots of really successful international cooperation agreements that have made the world a better place for, or at least reduce the negative impact of whaling, acid rain. There's been some progress in climate change, although it's still a bit of a challenge. But the ozone layer, we've talked about that. Managing watersheds to make sure that the water systems are working well. So I mean, there's lots of good examples of successful efforts to resolve these problems and for people working together. And I think we are hardwired to work together, and that's part of who we are. I mean, we grow up in families, we grow up in communities, and there's not just to work together, but cooperative action is part of who we are, part of our DNA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know this is the hopeful. I don't want to throw a wrench into the hopeful conversation, but when you said,
but you're going to anyway.
We're hardwired to work together. I've also heard, and I think a lot of people would phrase it this way, that we're hardwired to compete with each other. So how do we? Is that is that true at all in your mind? Like that we are going to compete with each other, or is that like a false belief that we've created?
I think both are true. I think that there are genuine. I mean, the message of this partly is that there are genuine conflicts of interest that will result in competitive and conflicting actions, and that's why we need to work together to develop rules and institutions that will build trust, that will monitor the situation, and that will, with transparency, so that trust will be built. There are mechanisms to build trust. So that's really important, because there are real conflicts. Yeah. But when that happens, when we're able to do that, there can be really effective cooperative action.
That's hopeful. I noticed you mentioned the 8 things, and I'm forgetting her name already, even though you've talked about her a couple times.
Eleanor Ostrom. Well, there was a number of scholars, but she's the kind of the most.
Have you kind of touched on all of those already, or do you have the list of them? Like, do those things bring hope?
You want me to run through them quick?
Maybe.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. So there are 8 what are called design principles for organizational, for adaptive institutions. First of all, the resource has to be clearly defined, the boundary. So, for example, a fishery in the open ocean is more vulnerable than a fishery in an enclosed bay. So an area like the defined area like the Grand Banks is easier to manage than just an open ocean. So,
right.
So a defined boundary. Some kind of congruence between the rules and the local conditions, the conditions of that particular resource. So, what works for a high mountain pasture, which is only visited in the summer by herders that take their flocks or their herds up into the mountains in the summertime and then bring them back down in the wintertime. What works up there may not will likely not work for a low altitude pasture that's grazed year round. So that's number 2. Number 3 is collective choice agreements. So the people who are using the resource have to participate in making and modifying the rules. And that's partly because if they're not involved, if they don't buy into the rules, they can sabotage them pretty easily because they're the ones that are, yeah. So, so for example, people who are using an irrigation system are those best positioned to manage it. And that input into the management contributes to their investment in obeying the rules that they make. So, and rules that are imposed on them without consultation are more likely to be resisted. So the trust issue is big there. Number 4 is monitoring. There has to be effective monitoring. There has to be active oversight to make sure that rules are followed. So, for example, we mentioned nuclear proliferation treaties. Monitoring is really important like that, and fisheries need monitoring too. So, number 5 is graduated sanctions. So now we're getting into the enforcements. And graduated, so that if people are breaking the rules, then there needs to be some penalties, and those can escalate depending on the
Start
scenario.
gently to bring them back, and if that doesn't work,
Yeah.
you add another layer.
So it could start with social disapproval. I mean, it might be that if somebody's fishing when they shouldn't be, then when they come back into the port, then all the other fishers are standing around looking at them.
Thumbs down from the docks.
Looking at, giving them the side eye there. It could be exclusion. They could be basically have their right to fish there taken away. There could be fines. There could be economic sanctions. There could be, at an international level, economic sanctions are really effective in lots of cases. Physical punishment would be another option in some cases. So, whether we
go to war.
Well, war would be the international one, but in a local situation, maybe some of the other members just get together and beat up one of the other people. I'm not encouraging this. I'm not encouraging that. You want to start and keep it as low as possible. So that's number 5. Just sanctions, just some kind of penalties or punishments. Number 6 is conflict resolution mechanisms. Maybe this should be before sanctions. So some kind of low cost ways to resolve disputes. So I mean, if you have to sue somebody to get them to stop doing something, it can take years and there's so there's what I call legal abuse. The people with the deeper pockets are almost always better off in that case. So if you can have some way of resolving problems locally, in Alberta there was a farm mediation panel that I had a friend who was involved in that early on, and I've forgotten the precise name of it, but there was just respected farmers were set up to mediate those kind of conflicts. Farm credit mediation, I think, was something like that. Anyway, the 7th one is minimal recognitions of the right to organize. So that was the ability of communities to organize has to be respected by provincial, national, international governments or organizations. And then finally, the last one is nested enterprise. And so governance needs to be organized in multiple layers. So watersheds, for example, that may follow rivers that cross many borders. And this is, in Europe, this is a big issue. You've got the Danube and the Rhine that kind of cross or part, or the number of different states and borders and provinces that border on the Great Lakes. They have to get together. They have to be able to cooperate on those things. So and the biggest example of that, I think, is climate change. That local action needs to be coordinated both nationally and internationally. So those are the 8.
Okay. Yeah, thanks.
I feel like the problem of trust, or like the goal of trust, weaves through all those, right? Like it's the one that if we can achieve trust, then all of those things become easier to achieve, right? And as you were talking, I was thinking about what's the obstacle, and this will be maybe a conversation for another episode, but what is the obstacle to trust? And I wonder if it is that we have become our ideologies have become so rigid. And maybe that's what makes it difficult for us to achieve any of these things. Because when I was listening from my own ideological lens, I'm like, yeah, I agree. Those people should be punished when they do the things I don't want them to do. But I know there's other people saying that the opposite, right? So, yeah, that's just my reflection as I was sitting there quiet while you were reading through. I was trying to think, what could I call this, like, flexible ideology or something, but another topic.
Yeah.
Well, I think the key thing there, though, I think, is that trust needs to be built. And that's maybe the question that maybe that is a topic for another conversation. But how do you build trust? And talking about it in general global terms is pretty challenging. But, you know, if there's one particular issue that you want to build trust on, then a big part of it is transparency and accountability. People have to, there has to be a certain amount of information that's commonly shared, and then there has to be accountability for people to follow up on that.
So we just solve that problem next time?
Now that we've solved the collective action problem.
Right.
Okay. Well, I think that's, do you want to, are we wrapping up here, you think?
Continue.
Well, I just want to thank you for joining us. Like, you came very well prepared and gave at least myself a lot to think about. Like, I didn't say much because I just enjoyed listening to everything and considering what you were saying. So thank you for coming and doing that for us.
My privilege.
We'll probably have you back someday. I think would be great. Lots more to talk about. Because that building trust piece for me, like my mind goes to many specific examples that I can think of that I would like to delve into that maybe could each be their own episode. But
I'm wondering, do you have a recommendation for a book or somebody who's kind of writing about these things, or like that, if somebody wanted to think more about collective action that they should pursue? Putting you on the spot, I know. I'm sorry.
I'm feeling a bit sheepish because my studying of this is now 25 years old or more, because it was happened.
So it's you they should reach out to.
No. I mean, I haven't studied it. I haven't. I'm not up to speed. I'm not up to date on the scholarship. Gotcha. So, but I mean, Elinor Ostrom's book, Governing the Commons, is one of the classics in the field. But I'm sure that there's lots more stuff more recent than that. I just haven't kept up with it.
Yeah. Well, and I like how this episode also ties into hope, because when you're active in doing these things, that like it gives you a purpose to work towards something, and I can see how this is a hopeful topic, even in the potential current level of feeling hopelessness, that there's work to do and people to align yourself with and action to be taken.
Yeah, exactly.
So should we work together to wrap this up in one more segment?
I think we have to.
This segment is brought to you by Birdie Coffee. The team at Birdie Coffee is passionate about high-quality, locally made craft beverages. Enjoy a decadent latte, freshly roasted espresso, or something iced and delicious. Located in Red Deer, Alberta, Birdie Coffee Co. is a stop well worth making. But don't worry, if you aren't in the area, you can get their fresh roasted coffee beans delivered right to your door. Head to birdiecoffeeco.ca to learn more, or check them out at the Gasoline Alley Farmers Market, Thursday to Sunday.
Well, we've had a great time with Ross, and we're in the Sheldon Kennedy Center of Excellence, so I feel like our confessions have to be elevated to a level of excellence. Mine isn't, but I'll tell you that this is the time of year when two things happen. One, it starts snowing, and my street never gets shoveled. I don't know about where you guys live, what it's like around you. So the conditions of the roads get pretty bad. And this is also the time of year when council does their annual announcement in Red Deer City Council that like the budget has increased and my taxes are going to go up. So those things always coincide. And I get like this hate on for what's going on locally. Like, did I vote for the right people? Because we're going to have 7% increase in our city taxes and I'm not receiving any visible, like I know there's benefits to living in a city, but it kind of bugs me that those two things always seem to happen at the same time. It's just bad timing. So then this leads to me doing these little rants, which I'm doing right now, about the state of things. So my confession is I kind of have to come to terms with what's going on, because I will complain about like, why do people in the city get paid so much, and why are we don't even, I don't know, shovel the roads or mow the lawns, or like I'm just this old guy complaining about.
No, every podcast needs a grumpy old man.
Oh
So
man, that's where I'm at. So I'm in my grumpy. Good thing it's Christmas and I love Advent and Nativity and all that, because it tempers me a bit. But it's my grumpy.
Do you want me to come shovel your sidewalk for you? Is that?
No, my sidewalk's fine.
I bet
it's the road.
Yeah.
Anyway,
What was the confession?
I just get like grumpy. I'm grumpy about the state of things sometimes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We didn't even talk about public infrastructure as a collective action
know, right.
problem,
Yeah.
but it's a great example.
Yeah.
So my confession is, I started out with a way I'm trying to be healthier. My confession is that I'm not very consistent about that. And
We've had a few of those too.
one currently, my guilty pleasure is when I go to the Co-op gas bar. They have a twist. They have a soft ice cream dispenser.
Oh, I've
and then
seen
they
that.
have Tyranny syrups, and they have sprinkles, like they have crushed.
I haven't seen this.
They have crushed Kit Kat and Score and Smarties, and you can make your own sundae.
Really?
Really, really good sundaes. You can. So I like a little ice cream at the bottom, and then they have like a little like butterscotch syrup, and then they caramel syrup maybe, and then a little more ice cream, and then maybe chocolate syrup on the top with some Score bars on the top.
Whoa.
So it's good.
And you're getting gas every day now.
I
Topped up.
No, I don't go to the gas bar. I don't go to the Co-op gas bar for gas very often, but I go in for Sundays.
Really?
Pairs well with
way
a herbal
more.
tea.
It's a sugar rush, like beyond compare.
Oh yeah. Nice.
That's a good one.
That almost
sounds like a
That's
recommendation.
what I was going to say.
Yeah, it could be a recommendation as well.
Yeah.
Take it as a recommendation if you want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You go, Ty.
Yeah, my confession is that I'm not responding to my I'm not making changes after I make a confession. So sometimes I'll
Ever?
No, not ever, but there are a few examples where I've made a confession, which in the spirit of what we're doing should imply that I want to make changes and do better.
Well, that's what Chris and I have always assumed.
Yeah. But I haven't, maybe I just require, I'll give some examples, I guess. On the way here, I threw a banana peel out the window. It definitely didn't make it into the bushes.
And ate a whole pack of jujubes.
Well, that's what came to mind when I thought that's where Ross was going to the Co-op gas station.
Yeah.
Like, I'd grab those jujubes. But, just the other day, my fingers were so cold on a walk with my dog, I did not pick up the dog crap. And I'm, yeah.
Double down over
And
here.
I have confessed on both those things, but then in just this last week, failed to make a positive change. So,
Do you think about it in the moment? Like, oh, I've told people about this and now I'm doing it again.
or immediately afterwards, and there's a little bit of guilt. So maybe it is helping. It just takes time, I guess. For me, I'm not I need to be better at that.
When you're driving home today, could you do us a favor and stop where the banana peel was thrown and pick it up for us?
Or take a picture for
Make sure
the
it gets in the grass.
website.
Yeah.
For the Substack.
I'm trying to think if I could pinpoint its location.
Yeah. Or is it already just some animal choking on it somewhere or something? Right? Like,
Someone slipping on
Some
it.
kid.
You could
I think it's a
pick
good
up somebody else's litter. That would be the
Okay.
way.
Yeah, true.
Okay, maybe that's what I need to
Absolve
do.
yourself.
Okay,
It's a
to be
good
absolved,
confession
I'll-
because I think that's
As a pastor, I will
absolving.
I will give you that, what do they call that in the Catholic Church? Where
You're absolved?
Penance?
Or penance.
Penance.
Okay,
Your
if I can
penance is to pick up other litter, somebody else's litter.
Someone else.
We're going to have you back on the show for sure if that's what's going to
That's an option.
Well, I want to do better. And
Yeah.
and I even in the confessions I make, they should be. I think we need to be. Not that your confessions haven't been good, but I think we need some sincere, vulnerable.
Okay, well, here's one
Okay.
that I haven't actually done this yet, but the mere fact that I'm considering it. Well,
It's like Minority Report.
I probably will.
Free confession.
It's a free crime. No, and if my wonderful partner hears this, I'm in big trouble. So I got to make it a quick story, but the kids made thank you gifts for the teachers last year. Cards they made, and then pretty substantial gift cards as well, because we, support the teachers. So they had 4 teachers across the 2 of them, so we made 4 cards. Last June, we give them to the kids. They come home. They're still in their bags, right? So I'm the guy that gets the kids ready in the morning, so I should notice that and be like, hey, you got to get these to your teachers.
Okay.
I put them on the shelf, and I forget to do that entirely. So that's my first confession, is that I forgot to. And
So are they still there?
well,
from
here's the
last
thing.
year?
So my wife, she found them recently, cleaning up and things. And
Like from last Christmas.
from last June, end of the year.
Oh, okay.
And was, not reasonably, but like justifiably upset because these are a lot of money, and the kids and I said, oh yeah, I don't know, like they must have forgot. So that's not really my confession. My confession is that she asked, hey, you're doing parent-teacher interviews. Can you bring these to the school and give them to those teachers? But the problem is 2 of those teachers aren't at that school anymore. And so she said, well, can you track them down? And I said I would find out where they are and vet them. But that's not, my intention is not really to do that. In fact, my intention is that the gift cards are for a store that I really want to buy Heidi's birthday present for.
Oh, at least it's for her.
So I kind of want to toss the kids' cards out and just steal the gift cards
Oh, yeah.
and use them to buy her own gift.
Right.
On the scale, how bad is that? What do you think? Am I getting in trouble for that?
Well,
To buy the gift for your spouse or for your kids?
I'm using it's for her. It's for her.
Oh, it's
because
for
it's the
her.
same store I want to go to anyway, which I won't say because that'll spoil the surprise. But I just feel like it's like a pretty dastardly thing to do.
Well, buying it for yourself would be like the ultimate.
Yeah, but the
I
thing
think
is,
the moral dilemma is that you're lying, that you're saying you're going to give it to.
yes, I said that I
someone
would,
else.
and then she hasn't followed up and asked, did you deliver those? I think that's going to be the real problem.
Do you think taking a sting out of that will be like, surprise?
Here's the thing.
I got
I
you
did
something.
deliver 2 of them. So, because they're still there. So if she says, did you deliver them? I'll say, well, I definitely delivered some cards.
Yeah, I delivered
Just
some
not
cards.
all of them. Or should I just forget this plan and just find out where these people work?
Deliver the card without the gift card.
Okay. Like, take it carefully.
Steam it open.
Okay.
You could use Ross's tea.
Okay. Anyway, maybe it's not that bad, but I feel like I shouldn't do it, but I really want to. Just it's so poetic, right? It just comes full circle. I can use our own gift card for my own purposes, and I'm a teacher too, so.
Yeah, support the teachers.
Oh, that's good.
Well, thank you guys for joining us here at the Sheldon Kennedy Center for Excellence. It was a fitting name to the building for a fitting guest of Ross that we had today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us.
It's my pleasure.
For Tyler for contacting and helping to organize, and Chris just for being yourself.
Yes, sure.
Anything we need to mention as we hit the road, Tyler?
Merch is coming.
Yeah.
It's ordered. This was another confession, is that I kind of just ordered stuff without running it by you guys.
No, you know what?
It'll
It's
be good.
taken a while, so hopefully it looks okay.
You guys don't get final approval on the episode, so
Yeah, so that's the only kind of upcoming thing.
Cool.
Yeah, I heard you guys have some great ideas for upcoming episodes.
We do.
Yeah, we do.
Big time.
Yeah.
Okay.
But we don't want to give anything away
don't
as
give
of
it away.
yet.
Well, there's one we're working on that I really hope works out, Tyler.
Yeah,
But I won't say.
keep that one secret because it's uncertain.
Sounds like a teaser.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good episodes are coming. Just so you know.
Oh, they
Ross,
are.
any I know Chris kind of gave you this opportunity already, but anything, like, if people have questions for you, are you comfortable? Can they reach out to you, or do you have any recommendations for books? Any this is like your chance to plug, like plug your own stuff.
People can certainly reach out to me. My email address is ross.smillie@gmail.com, and I have lots of recommendations that I will save for another occasion.
Okay.
Okay, nice.
What I want our listeners to do is go back and find. You left a really good comment on one of our first Substack posts. That was when we were just getting started on Substack, and you left a nice comment. And I want someone to go back and reply to it.
Was that about God?
It might have been. Yeah, I can't remember.
The only one, I think the only one I've done on the Substack was about God.
And we need some more traction there. We need people to interact there. So
to engage with Substack.
Yeah.
Speaking of engaging with Substack, we have a contest winner, which we'll announce next episode.
Oh, we just keep pushing it back,
Yeah,
eh?
yeah.
All right. But we have the winner.
Mostly because we don't have the swag package
in our
quite
hands
ready.
yet.
Is it me?
I can't confirm or deny.
So is that a promise that we're going to announce?
Yeah,
it next
we'll
time?
announce it next time.
Okay.
okay.
On?
Cool.
On what?
We'll announce it on Substack, but no, we won't. We'll announce it on our
podcast,
on our
which Tyler's going to
podcast.
remind everyone what it's called.
It's called the Harmonious Gentleman Podcast.
Nice.
Harmonious gentleman.